morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Ayubela. Thank you for joining us.
It's a beautiful day, another beautiful day. I am Dashan Husseina Usman, and permit me to still say Happy New Month because it is just the second day of a new month and the last month of the year.
Yes, with that, we inch closer to the Yuletide period. People call it Ember Months, and usually there's a whole lot of scare attached to this Ember Months. I don't know where the genesis of that is.
Just possibly because they actually feel since they're approaching, the end of the year, people would want to leave to see the following year. So if you don't make it, it's quite scary. But then aside that, there's a lot of excitement as well because as I was coming into work, I saw a lot of Christmas decorations as well, all around. And, it feels very exciting.
And there'll be a lot of movements, really.
Maybe that's why we people have started traveling as well, traveling out of Abuja. So
flight tickets are on the rise.
Yes.
And all. So it's usually associated with the end of the year.
Okay, so today on Daybreak, we'll be joined by Hajia Kubura Daradara, Director Logistics and Health National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, to speak on the new COVID-19 Omicron variant and the ban imposed on Nigerian travelers by Canada.
The dailies will also be coming up on Daybreak today. We have Hamza Idris, the General Editor of Daily Trust newspaper, to be giving us perspectives on the stories that made the headlines this morning.
Yes, but before we, go into that, let's take a look at events on the 2nd of December.
Yeah. the world is commemorated for so many things. Now, today is World Environment Day 2021. It is also International Day for the Abolition of Slavery. It is World Computer Literacy Day. And then in 1929, you have a first score of Peking man found in the caves of Zhougoudian, 50 kilometers outside of Peking, China, later dated roughly 750,000 years old. In 1976, you also have communist revolutionary Fidel Castro becomes president of Cuba, replacing El Salvador Doticos Torrado. And then you also have, in 1918, Armenia proclaims independence from Turkey.
Yes. Now, the theme of this year's World Environment Day, is ecosystem restoration. And this simply means assisting in the recovery of ecosystems that have been degraded or destroyed, as well as conserving the ecosystems that are still intact. Now, talking about ecosystems, healthier ecosystems with richer biodiversity yield greater benefits, such as more fertile soils, bigger yields of timber and fish, larger stores of greenhouse gases, and lots more. And the ecosystem restoration can actually take many forms, from growing trees to greening cities, rewilding gardens, changing diets, cleaning up rivers and coasts. This is the generation that can actually make peace with nature, and we should actually, stick to that.
Right now, talking about the abolition of slave trade, the United Nations International Day for the Abolition of Slavery is annually held on this day, December 2nd, to raise awareness of the atrocities of modern slavery. Many people use the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery as an opportunity to share their perspective in writings through poetry, opinion, pieces, interviews, feature articles, short stories, and other published materials. Classrooms may review the history of slave trade, its evolution and changes it has undergone through to modern times. Now, students may also learn about the negative impacts of slavery in our society. In addition, more than 150 million children are subject to child labor, accounting for almost 1 in 10 children around the world. That's quite an alarming number.
Yes,
if you look at the issue about child labor and all of that.
A lot of institutions have actually come out in the past against child labor, but is it really working? Because you go out and you still see kids as young as 2 years, hawking.
And that's because the factors feeling it is still there, very much, especially, within African countries. Nigeria, if you take that as a case study, you see the level of poverty. So you find that most times children get to a certain age and then they are left alone to fend for themselves. And so they go all out on the street
hawking, begging.
So instead of going to school, you see them
getting into all manner of vices as well. It's really sad. All right, so not forgetting that today is also World Computer Literacy Day. Talking about technology, the age of computers is here. And we carry them in our pockets. We drive them to work. At least some of us do. And the scarcity of internet access and the computer literate workforce is a barrier to development for many countries around the world. So World Computer Literacy Day promotes access to computers for developing countries. As technology advances, the global village grows closer as well. So,
very, very interesting facts there for us to commemorate and to also draw attention and bring to the fore the conversations that needed to be, made about computer literacy. The world has changed. It's not the Nigeria of today. It's not the Nigeria of
yesterday.
Exactly. So virtually everything is digitalized. It's on internet.
It's still evolving.
It's computer-based.
Almost everything being done right now, them being able to see us as well is digitalized, and it's all thanks to technology as well.
Exactly. So imagine if you grow up in this time and you do not know your way around computers. How are you really going to, thrive in all of that? So it's something that we need to, take seriously. Now let's take a look at the dailies on Daybreak shortly after this breather. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
right, we have in the studio Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, to review the stories that made the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Are you? Good morning, Hussein.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. The first story there, you would see ignorance, emotion threatening national unity. That's according to the Sultan. You'd find details of that on page 4. Electoral Act. What will guide us in replying Buhari's letter? The INEC is responding. So for details of that, you can grab a copy. They are saying that the interest of the public, that is national interest and democracy, will be their core pillars, to consider in responding to the president. Recall that he has sent to the INEC asking of their opinion, about direct primaries and all of that as regards the amendment in the Electoral Act. The lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper, COVID-19 Omicron. Buhari, 10 ministers jet out to Dubai. You'd also find the riders there. How Nigeria detected 3 cases. Ramaphosa's visit successful despite scare, and that's according to the president. FG's directive flops as unvaccinated workers access offices. You'd see the pictorial there showing you the initial barring of some of the federal civil service workers in the front of the Federal Secretariat yesterday. But from what we have gathered, they were only detained for a few minutes.
A few minutes, and then later on they're allowed into their workspaces.
All right, at the bottom of that, you would see also death toll in Kano boat tragedy rises to 29. And then at the very bottom, MTN begins road shows on 575 million shares. ISWAP abducts 6 Borno officials, and that's on page 13. Also, despite receiving millions monthly, FCT council chairs denied teachers' allowances, and that's on page 27. That's for the Daily Trust today.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Punch newspaper, and we have the story right at the top that says reps order audit of NNPC assets, liabilities, probe IOC's over 2.6 trillion naira debts, and you can find that on page 17. All right, we have another story here that says external reserves lost $610 million in November. CBN battles to save naira. You can find that on page 17. Ramaphosa alleges South discrimination in South Africa. Others travel ban over Omicron, and you can find that story on page 2. Senate panel faults aviation minister over Nigerian Eagle operating license, and that particular story can be found on page 17. The lead here on the front page of the Punch newspaper says Omicron, Canada bars Nigerians. Fear spreads as NCDC records 3 cases. We have some writers here. Variants detected in 3 persons with travel history to South Africa, says NCDC. Contact tracing never effective. Variants already in circulation, says virologists. And Africa accounts for only 4.3% of COVID-19 global fatalities, says ECOWAS. And more on that story can be found on page 2. We also have another story here that says government bars unvaccinated civil servants, military issues directive. And if you go to the bottom, you'll see resign before December 18. FIME tells appointees nursing gubernatorial ambition. And that story can be found on page 30. Lagos hoodlums hack NURTW boss at home. Wow, that is a really sad one. Shoot him dead in the hospital. And that story can be found on page 4 and 5. And the last story will be taken from the front page is 6.9 billion naira fraud. Fayoshe's ally deposited 209 million naira cash for property, says witness. And those are the stories on Punch newspaper.
All right. Let's take a look at the Nation. And there you would see the first story says Buhari to Ramaphosa. Nigeria, South Africa should end rivalry. So if you tie that with the whole xenophobic attacks that we've experienced in the past. You see that this is a discussion that needs to be had. And also you have NCDC confirms 3 cases of Omicron COVID-19 variant, and that's on page 31. UBA is African Bank of the Year. Wiki, why Electoral Act bill should be signed. And also you'd see the lead story on The Nation says hashtag NSAS report, Lagos defends white paper. Also other writers there says Oyebode Ade Bonua, others kick. Prosecution of those indicted likely, says Malami. And then you would find also House wants 2.6 trillion naira debt by oil firms recovered. And at the bottom, or I would say rather below the pictorial, you'd see a story that says How to Foster National Unity by Kuka Fayemi Aremu. That's that for The Nation newspaper.
All right, we'll take the final newspaper, which is the Guardian newspaper. And the lead there says federal government forces COVID-19 jabs. Workers plead for time. And some writers here that says ASCSN wants April date for unvaccinated workers lockout. NCDC confirms 3 cases of Omicron in Nigeria. Don't panic, vaccines still effective, NCDC tells Nigerians. WHO says Omicron now in 23 countries across the world. World Health Assembly to develop historic global accord on pandemic prevention and response. And we also have a story here that says Nigeria records 440,000 new cases of tuberculosis yearly. 29 die in Kano boat mishap, and that can be found on page 5. CAN charges government on killing of Christians in Zamfara by terrorists. And also task Buhari to sign new electoral act, Wiki tells media, and that story can be found on page 8. And the final story here is why we found NSAS panel's report unreliable, says Lagos AG, and details of that story will be found on page 2.
All right. Well, that's that for the stories that made the headlines. Now let's get perspectives on this. Once again, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning once again.
Thank you. All right, now the whole conversation about the COVID-19 pandemic scare is everywhere on our papers this morning. But, of more concern is how Nigerians are treated outside of Nigeria. The same case with South Africa, when the South African president was raising alarm, over the, shutting down of borders, and he was saying that, look, this is unscientific and is unnecessary and all of that. What should we be doing?
We should do the right thing. Yes, it's good to travel. You should have cogent reasons to travel. And it is that our attitude in Africa, we love going abroad. Mm. Yes, you see, the case in South Africa, they were bold enough to say, yes, we have traced this, but it did not start it there. And I think that was why the president so angry that the West is trying to crucify South Africa and its neighbors. And that was partly responsible why, even though he planned to travel to many countries across Africa for other reasons, including bilateral relations, but he has been using that opportunity to call for action, to call for collaboration in order to deplete the effort of the West towards imposing a kind of sanctions, because if you restrict people from movement, if you restrict people from doing certain things, piloting their economy and all that, it will have bad consequences on the population. So that was why Ramaphosa, he thanked Nigeria, he thanked Senegal and other countries for standing by South Africa, saying he is very happy that they are with him. And President Buhari equally said, we will remain with you. You can see the president of the Africa Development Bank also said it was wrong for the West to, flag South Africa simply because they detected the new COVID-19 variant. So I see a lot of politics around it, and I see also political economy, around the COVID-19 thing. But we have to get our acts right. There are certain things that we must do. We thank God that Africa is not really hard hit by it. Up to now, less than 5% of the global figures. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another story. Talking about the Electoral Act, we have Wike and INEC, urging President Buhari to reply the letter and also sign, the act. What's your thoughts on this?
It is democracy at work. You can see before the signing of the electoral bill, yes, by the National Assembly, there was a lot of fireworks between legislators and governors. And it revolves around maybe 2 or 3 fundamental things, but key among them, the issue of direct primaries or indirect primaries and consensus. These are the 3 options recognized by law for political parties to select their candidates. But there were insinuations that the governors were more amenable to indirect primaries, whereby you will have delegates. And when you have delegates, they are easier to manage, they are easier to manipulate and all that. And there is tacit rivalry between governors and legislators. So the legislators tend to have or be favorably disposed to direct primaries, whereby almost all registered party members will come out and then select candidates. It is a bit difficult to manipulate that if you do it correctly, but Nigerians, the way we behave. But for the president, we know for a very long time he has been an advocate of direct primaries. He called it Kato by Kato. Yeah, and more or less the A4 option, which was tried during Babangida. Now, INEC, which is supposed to advise the president. Yeah, it is in possession of his letter seeking for its input before he assent to it, which is very good. Yes, the president, what he did is fantastic for seeking expert advice of INEC. And then it cannot, INEC will not just respond overnight. They will also have to study it, look at what the political parties, have in their kitty, because you need to have a working register too. If not, you will end up causing serious chaos in the system. Because
so is it something that we hope to see, or do we stand a chance of strengthening democracy using this direct primary method?
Yes, meaning you are expanding the political space. Before, very few people, you select few people from the ward who will now elect leaders at the local government level. Then from there, you sift through, select some people who will now elect state officials and delegates. And then from there, those state delegates, they become emperors of sort, because you see them eagerly waiting for time for primaries, because they will become the fantastic brides for contestants. All contestants aspiring for governorship, for Senate, for House of Reps, House of Assembly. You see them, visiting the delegates. Exactly, visiting the delegates, and then on the D-Day, you see all of them scampering to, lodge them in 5-star hotels and all that, giving them a lot of money. But you can imagine if they said every party member has a stake in selecting candidates. How much will they spend? It's very huge. So it will open the political space. Politicians will do the right thing, so that without prompting, without compromising the delegates or without compromising party members. The best candidate will emerge who will compete with the best candidate of other political parties. And at the end of the day, when you have the right people in the right place, you will see democracy at work.
Okay. Do you think introducing technology into the electoral process would actually work?
All over the world, but technology is the creation of man, right? No matter how perfect technology is, it needs the breathing space to succeed. And in Nigeria, we can manipulate every other thing. You know, there is this joke that, you know, a certain machine was invented. You know, it caught many thieves in China, it caught many thieves in US, it caught many thieves in Niger, but when it was brought to Nigeria, it was stolen. It was meant to, catch thieves, but when it was brought to Nigeria, before you know, it was stolen. It's a joke, but you know, it tells you how cunning our people are.
All right. Some have raised concern about the costs, you know, of running primary, direct primary, you know, elections. That it's going to put parties under pressure, and all of that. How true is that? And
honestly, if we get the formula right, I don't think so. Rather, it will reduce the spending, because when you have delegates, most of these delegates are already rich. So for you to say compromise them or something like that, you spend a lot of money. But by the time you say every party member will participate, who will you bribe? You understand? You will only promise to deliver services to the people. And Nigerians are law-abiding to greater extent. In most cases, they are being influenced by politicians who have ulterior motive in seeking for political offices. But for you to do it correctly, you need register. You get it. You need, all the political parties need to have a register, and we discussed this in one of our reviews in the newsroom. We said, look, there is the need for INEC to also play key role in this by using the available data, probably with the NBS, probably with banks, this BVN and all that, so that while registering members of political parties, you should take their thumbprint, you should have their details, so that, and you use technology very well, so that if I'm a member of, let's say, Party A, if I want to compromise to go and register with Party B, I should be able to be flagged down that, look, you are already a member of Party A. Because some people, because of the peanuts they may likely get, you see them registering with multiple political parties. And at the end of the day, we will make nonsense of the spirit behind having the all members participating in electoral
direct primaries, do you think that is something that will encourage small political parties? By small, I mean
the banana parties will say.
Yes.
Ordinarily, it should. Yes, ordinarily it should. You know, one of the requirements of being a political party, you know, recognized by INEC is for you to have, one, your office in the Federal Capital Territory, and then representation across the 36 states of the Federation. Personally, I don't think if I will be able to give you the names of 10 political parties now, because many of them, they don't really make any impact. They don't have single representation, even at the state legislature. At the National Assembly, apart from APC, PDP, APGA, and the Youth Party, there is no any other party with representation at the House of Representatives or the Senate. It's not good for democracy. But we think when you open up the political space, when you make contest cheaper, most likely people will go to other political parties, and based on their grassroots connection, based on their relationship with the people, you see them producing leaders, even at the local level. It's not necessary that every political party must have representation at the center, but they should have ideology. They should be able to make an impact, maybe even at the local government level. If you can succeed in a state to elect chairman in 5 local government areas, and then you have maybe advancing education or agriculture as your slogan, and you succeed in doing that at the local level, I can assure you that during the next round of election, you will likely have 10 local governments. Then later, you may have a senatorial zone, and at the end of the day, maybe in the geopolitical zone, you should be able to have 1 or 2 states.
Okay, let's move on to a story on page 27 of Daily Trust newspaper. And it says, despite receiving millions monthly, FCT Council chairs deny teachers allowances. What do you have to say, regarding this and the education sector in the country?
Yes, they called off the strike they embarked on yesterday, but here in the Daily Trust, we went deep into the story, to unravel some of the circumstances that necessitated the strike. And what we uncovered was that the 6 area councils, they receive over 9 billion between January and June from the Federation account. This is besides what they generated at the council level. And what are they supposed to do? They are so lucky that these 6 area councils, they are under the Federal Capital Territory. So in most instances, major projects, are being taken care of by the Federal Capital Development Authority. So for them, is to take care of these minor issues, especially salary of primary school teachers, salary of healthcare workers in cottage hospitals and all that. But they failed to do this. We contacted them, we spoke with them. In fact, as the time we were putting the story, 3 of the chairmen were in Dubai. What are they doing in Dubai? So the workers are so angry, but at the instance of the senator representing the FCT and then the FCT minister, the workers said, okay, we'll come back to work, because they gave a commitment that we will force Algon, which is the umbrella body of the chairman of the 6 area councils, to settle these people who take care of our children. They take care of children of the poor in the primary school. But why can't you pay them? How much is the salary? How much is the allowance? But they agree to pay. But we will remain on the story to make sure that they are paid their allowances.
Now, we've seen education being attacked, on different fronts, by bandits, ASU strike and everything, talking about ASU and all that. Would you say Nigeria really takes education seriously?
Not really. I have my doubts, because if you look at the commitment to education, the percentage we allocate from the national budget is quite insignificant, yes. And then, but we should understand that piloting education, taking care of education at all levels is not cheap, and it requires collaboration among governments at the 3 levels, companies and all that. We have a story that about 77 oil companies, they refuse to remit taxes, among them education tax. And these monies are meant to be, channeled into, a big pool, so that you now distribute it to universities, secondary school, and it should also trickle down to primary school, so that you conduct research, you provide instruction materials, you provide enabling environment, and then you recruit competent teachers. If you don't have resources, you will not be able to do this. And I can assure you that more than 80% of teachers that we have at all levels, including universities, if they get greener pasture, they will depart, they will move on, because what they are being paid is not commensurate with the effort they put. And they are also human. They want to take care of their families. They want to have good houses to live in. They want to have access to health and all that. And any country that did not give the desired attention to education, that country is doomed.
Okay. All right, well, we have to end the review here. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your perspectives with us on the program. We look forward to having you again.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to be here, and I hope to come again.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we have a guest to talk about the Omicron COVID-19 virus. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, a worrisome new COVID-19 variant recently detected or identified in Southern Africa was officially designated a variant of concern by the World Health Organization last week, Friday. Now, the WHO also given the variant B11529 the name Omicron. Cases of the variant have been detected in over a dozen countries, and it appears to be driving a surge of infections in South Africa.
All right, now the federal civil servants and people with businesses to attend to were reportedly prevented from accessing government buildings in Abuja on Wednesday over COVID-19 vaccination. All government officials who could not present proof of vaccination and negative PCR tests were stopped early this morning from gaining entrance to the Federal Secretariat, talking about yesterday being the deadline for that. Now, TrustTV's Nafisa Abdullah reports on that.
Following the announcement made by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, in October 2021, that all civil servants without proof of vaccination and negative polymerase chain reaction tests would not be allowed to access government buildings from December 1, 2021. The announcement was implemented Wednesday morning in Abuja as civil servants without proof of vaccination and negative polymerase chain reaction tests were prevented from accessing the Federal Secretariat.
Yes, this morning I entered here some minutes to 8, and then I found out that the security men, they were telling us that without our COVID-19 card, that we cannot enter our offices. So I was so terrified. I was thinking they were playing, but later on I found out that they were serious. Though at the end of the whole thing, they allowed people, maybe around 11 or so. Yes.
Actually, today at the early hour of this morning, the civil servants were not allowed to go through their offices just because they gave them a warning of at least a deadline of yesterday for everybody to be vaccinated. But actually, this morning, they were not allowed to go into the office. And this is actually absurd because in times like this, where everybody is finding a way to make impact, especially getting something to eat, and you're stopping people to go and be vaccinated. Go to the place they asked us to go and get our vaccine. You discover that the place is not even conducive. Apart from being conducive, you discover that the job, you cannot leave your boss in your office and go and start being vaccinated. So it's something that at least is supposed to give us a very, at least from now to March, for us to be vaccinated. I'm surprised that just within a little short of time, and they are telling us nobody should go inside his office again. It's not, at least it's very absurd. The government should at least find a way, at least, to at least give us at least a time.
So the issue of COVID-19 preventing civil servants from entering the office is not good at all. Why? Because in some parts of the world, like in America, they are kicking against this COVID-19. They don't want people to be taking it because of the side effect, and they are now forcing our people to take it by force. I don't think it's wise for government to impose it on us that we must take it. After all, they have said the COVID-19 killed this, killed that. We have not seen it. We are not even sure that it's COVID-19 that killed those people they mentioned. That's what it's all about.
It is not the right decision because the vaccination, it shouldn't be by force. That is, if you are forcing somebody that doesn't want to do something and you ask him to do it by force, that is against human rights now. It's not fair.
The Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria had, however, asked the federal government to extend the deadline till March 2022. Nafisa Abdullah, TrustTV News, Abuja.
Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control says it has confirmed 2 cases of the Omicron COVID-19 variant in Nigeria. The NCDC Director General, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, in a statement said the cases were discovered during routine travel tests required of all international travelers and genomic sequencing at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control through its National Reference Laboratory, Abuja. Yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa at the State House in Abuja. In President Cyril Ramaphosa's remark, he appreciated Nigeria for extending a hand of friendship and said all African countries must work together to overcome challenges presented by new COVID-19 Omicron variant. Now, we have in the studio Hajia Kubura Daradara, Director, Logistics and Health National
Commodities. Health Commodities.
Health Commodities of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency in the studio to share thoughts with us. Good morning, and it's good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, so to our first question, where did Omicron come from and how did it develop?
So, actually, Omicron was first detected in South Africa, but the South Africans are saying it's because they have an advanced genome sequencing. That is why people are saying it was first detected in Africa and South Africa. So we don't actually know where it came from, though it's been said that it was first detected in South Africa.
All right, now this Omicron, how is it different from all the variants that we have, seen before now?
So for now, the tests are still going on, but from what we are hearing, it's going to be more virulent than the other variants that we have seen before. But tests are still ongoing so that we can see the difference between it and the other variants that we have had.
Okay, you talked about it being violent, but scientists have actually said that, it seems to be milder than other variants.
So it depends. In some other news, you hear that it's more virulent than the previous ones. So the scientists are still carrying on their investigations to see.
Okay, now we have been able to develop some vaccines against the variants that we have had before now. The Pfizer, BioNTech, the Moderna, and the rest of them. Now with this variant, we are hearing that even if you are vaccinated against those variants, it's almost, as if this is of no essence because this Omicron can defeat those vaccines, and then you could even get infected. Does this waters down all the efforts, all the successes that have been recorded in fighting this COVID?
Well, I don't know where you have heard that, but what we have heard is that these COVID-19 vaccines that we are using, the Pfizer, the Moderna, the AstraZeneca, are still effective against the Omicron. So you have to note that what the vaccine does is that it strengthens your immune system, so that even when the COVID-19 virus enters you have already developed a sort of immunity, so you don't really come down with the illness. So it's still effective. These vaccines we have, they are still effective against the Omicron virus.
Okay, now from the reports we watched earlier, we are aware that of this deadline by the federal government for all federal civil service workers to get vaccinated on the 1st of December. Yesterday, we saw what happened at the Federal Secretariat. There was an initial ban, barring of federal civil service workers, but eventually the ban was lifted, somehow. Where are we heading with this, really? And is it practical to really achieve this which we are setting out to do?
We are actually going to achieve it. So I don't know where you got the story that the ban was lifted.
Our reporters were there.
Because I know that we started ramping up vaccination since the first week of November. That we have done by setting up mass vaccination centers. So in addition to getting your jab at the public health facilities, private health facilities, we also have sites that we have set up where you can get it. You saw one of the pictures there at the Federal Secretariat. So that center at the Federal Secretariat has been there for 2 weeks now. We have engaged ad hoc vaccinators and recorders that have been vaccinating people. So what we actually saw yesterday was overcrowding of the centers. So more people got vaccinated yesterday. We even had to increase the number of vaccines that we gave them yesterday. So maybe that was what caused the people now entering the secretariat. So today we're even thinking of setting up more vaccination sites at the federal secretariat.
Okay, now considering the lessons learned from previous COVID-19 variants, how likely is this Omicron to spread, around the world?
That I will not be able to say now because it's a new variant, but it's not going to spread as rapidly as the other ones because now we have vaccines in place. There's availability of vaccines everywhere. Like in Nigeria too, we also have a lot of vaccines now. Between now and ending of December, we are going to take shipment of about 48 million doses. So with the availability of vaccines, now I'm not sure it's going to spread as rapidly as the others were spreading. Remember then there were no vaccines. So it was just spreading like wildfire. But now that we have availability of vaccines, I don't think it will spread so rapidly like that.
Okay, now from what we heard, somebody was saying something about, look, forcing people to take these vaccines is a violation of their rights. They're saying that people should not be forced to do that. But apparently that's what this order about barring civil servants is going to do.
I don't actually see it as forcing people to take the vaccination. If you're not taking the vaccination, it's going to affect me. Then it's not forcing you to take. Because in order to protect others, you have to protect yourself.
So there's no justification for anyone to think in that way.
Why? So if you protect yourself, you are protecting others. Because if you are not protected, and I protect myself, if you contact the virus, it can also affect me. Except that I may not come down with the illness the way you will come down with it. I may not be hospitalized the way you will be hospitalized. But then you have endangered my life by not taking the virus.
How are we getting prepared, against this Omicron variant that have been detected? How are we getting ourselves ready to face whatever that may come with it? Because, like you rightly said earlier, there's a lot of uncertainties, around this new variant.
So, like I have said, we are ramping up our vaccinations. We're having thousands of vaccination sites all over the country, so that people will have access to vaccination anywhere, no matter how hard to reach the area is, whether it's mountainous, whether it's riverine, whether it's a desert, whatever. Even in security compromised areas, we are setting up vaccination sites so that people will have access to vaccination and collect their jabs.
Okay, so how do you convince people who are bent on not even getting vaccinated at all to, get these vaccinations in order to protect, others around them?
So we are doing a lot of sensitization. So initially we started by sensitizing the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, and professional bodies and everybody. Initially we started it at the higher level. Now what we have done is we are even moving into the communities to sensitize people. With this ramp-up mass vaccination sites I'm telling you about now, we have mapped out the names of all the communities, and now we are going from community to community. And you as the media, you have a lot to play. You have a big role to play in sensitizing people over the media, because a lot of people listen to radio, they watch TV every day, they read newspaper, and a lot of people believe what the media tells them. So we all have a big role to play in this. Both the health professionals, the professionals, even the people in the social media, because we find that most of these conspiracy theories are passed through the social media without even confirming whether it is true or not. As soon as somebody receives something on WhatsApp, he starts forwarding it without even sitting there and thinking, I say, could this be true? I have gone to the market, I went to buy an electric bulb. And when the guy was going to test it, I was surprised. He put his hand behind this and it lightened up. So I asked him why. He said it's because it's rechargeable. Once you put your hand and it lightens up, that means it's okay, it's good to go. And then I'm surprised people are even using that as a conspiracy theory, that if you collect the vaccine, that it will lighten up your body becomes electrified. So we all have a big role to play in sensitizing the communities. But we have even gone a step further. We are now going from community to community to set up mass vaccination sites and convince people to collect the vaccination.
Okay, now aside from vaccination, you know, we cannot rule out this issue or this argument about ineffectiveness of, you know, the vaccines that we have available, you know, against the new variant that we have, the Omicron variant. Since we still, you know, are not certain about, you know, we are not certain about.
What come out to tell us.
CEO actually, you know, believes that vaccines will be less effective, you know, and also the reports of jabs being less effective. So, you know, that's why he's asking the question. And if I'm to actually push further, I would say, is there a need to further emphasize, if that's the case, is there a need to further emphasize that people take the jabs?
But it's still better to take the jab so that at least you know you are safe. So what I even heard you were saying was that people should, now what they are doing in advanced countries, that they are going for a booster dose. So maybe that is where Nigeria is heading now. But so far, WHO has not come out to tell us that this vaccine is ineffective against the...
Yeah, but the producers of the vaccine...
That is just one producer. He's not the only producer of vaccine.
And scientists.
That is just one producer. So even he will have to rely on what the scientists say. But that is just one producer. We have about 4 different vaccines in Nigeria. We have AstraZeneca, we have J&J, we have Moderna, and we have Pfizer. So that is just one of them.
Okay, now let's talk about racketeering, you know, of vaccine certificates. We are seeing that Canada is barring Nigerians, and not only Canada, we've seen, you know, in other countries, there's no confidence, trust in Nigeria's vaccination certificate and all of that. How are we dealing with that?
So what Canada actually did was that they placed a travel restriction on Nigerians because of this Omicron, not because of our certificates. So yes, we agree there's card racketeering going on, but we are doing a lot to make sure that it stops. We are putting measures in place. Like you find that sometimes even when they sell besides the hard copy of the card, people also get registered electronically. There's no perfect card. So you find that sometimes we've had cases of people that have traveled out, and then I don't know where they got the barcode they put, and they were not in the system. Because whoever put the seal for them did not register them on our system. So we have even gone a step further. Now what we are going to be doing is, for every card, for every vaccination that we give moving forward, we are going to be doing a validation process, which I am not going to divulge here. Because if I say it out now, then the people that are doing the card racketeering will get information and be looking for how to go against it again. So we are actually doing a lot to make sure that the card racketeering stops. So we have also involved the security agencies to do a sort of joint monitoring task force with us, so that whoever is caught will be brought to...
So what's the repercussion for those who have been... Have there been any arrests of people who have been doing this? And if we have, what's the repercussion?
So some arrests have been made, and they were actually detained for some days. But you know how the Nigerian system is. Their relatives went and bailed them. But the case is still ongoing. We are still investigating. Because
Will
we
they be
want to
charged to court or something?
No,
like
not
that?
yet. They've not been charged to court because the investigation is ongoing, so that we can know how many people are actually involved. Maybe it's just that small health center, or maybe it's a large this thing we want to know.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on the program. Please stay with us.
latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, we've been talking about the new COVID-19 variant that was detected, first in South Africa, and now in Nigeria we have two cases talking about the Omicron variant of COVID-19. And we have in the studio Kubura Daradara, Director, we have Logistics and Health Commodities from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency in the studio. Now, let's just talk more on this vaccination Omicron Omicron variant of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are insisting that workers get vaccinated. If everyone is to go out and get the vaccination, do we have the doses available that can go around?
We do have the doses that can go around. So we have different types of the vaccines in country, and we are still expecting more. Between now and December, we should get about 48 million doses of different types of vaccines. So we're getting a lot of vaccines from the COVAX facility, which is controlled by Gavi. Those ones are donated. And then we're also getting from the AVAT, the African Vaccine Acquisition Tax Team. They will also be supplying us with vaccines. So we do really have enough vaccines that can go around the country.
Okay, now you talked about travel ban earlier, and you know, a lot of people, especially scientists, have criticized travel bans, saying even when the Alpha variant, you know, came out, it didn't stop the spread, and you know, they're still saying that targeting specific countries or regions can take a heavy toll on their economies. What's your take on this?
Yes, I actually agree with the scientists, especially now that we have even moved on. So, travel ban initially, maybe there were no vaccines, but now there are vaccines. And then in addition to the vaccination, people are still adhering to the non-pharmaceutical products. As you can see, I came in with my face mask. The face mask, hand washing, social distances, not touching your hand, nose and mouth, and things like that. I also have the PCR test now. So I don't really think the travel ban is necessary, so long as people get vaccinated and then they adhere to the non-pharmaceutical measures that have been put in place.
Okay, so what about the drugs, aside the vaccination now, the drugs, that's COVID-19 drugs being taken, do you think it will work against Omicron?
That is not actually my purview.
All right, what are we to anticipate now going forward, you know, coming out from this Omicron vaccine? Are we looking at a possible lockdown again? what are some of the measures that we are likely to impose if it gets out of hand, or if it's something that we should be worried about?
So, like I have said, with the availability of the vaccine, we may not need a lockdown. If everybody gets vaccinated, we may not need a lockdown. So we can all get vaccinated, and then we'll adhere to the non-pharmaceutical products. Even the global best practices, now you find that a lot of countries now, they are not into the lockdown. They are more on ramping up the vaccination in their countries.
If you were to advise Nigerians now, would you tell them to panic over the Omicron variant or not?
I don't think there's any need to panic over the Omicron variant. So what we should do is to get ourselves vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, you protect yourself, you protect your family, you protect your community. So what we should all strive to do now is to get vaccinated. Okay. And then adhere also to the non-pharmaceutical measures that we have been doing.
Okay, give us a sense of, who is authorized to give these COVID-19 vaccines. Because I've heard stories about people who go to some locations, some secluded locations, in houses and all of that, getting vaccines and all of that. So who is authorized to do that? And at what point should we know that, look, there's a red flag here somewhere?
So far in the country, it's only the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency that imports the vaccines. And when the vaccines are imported, NAFDAC does their analysis. They take samples from each batch, and then they sample, and then they give us a certificate of release to tell us whether it's okay to receive to use the vaccines or not. And then we now give the health facility. So long it is a licensed healthcare worker, they can give the vaccine. So like I have said earlier, the vaccines for now are available in all public health facilities, private health facilities, and we're also setting up mass vaccination centers across the country that we have licensed healthcare workers that give the vaccines. Though I know that in order to have greater reach, some of the teams are even going from house to house to vaccinate people.
Okay. All right. Okay, so are we looking at, how about our own development of our own vaccine? Is there any effort in that regard, instead of, just relying on the foreign importation of the vaccines?
So we have a local vaccine production plant, which is our bio-vaccines, which is PPP, is owned partly by the federal government and private practitioners. They are looking into how we can produce our own local vaccines so that we don't always have to rely on those coming from abroad. And even the AVAT that I talked about, they are also looking at how to produce these vaccines in Africa.
Okay, now, South African president came into Nigeria, and there are reports that he didn't quarantine when he met with our president, and now our president, has traveled to Dubai with, his entourage. Now, what are the risks involved in this whole meeting?
I don't know of the South African president, but I know of our own president, President Muhammadu Buhari. He has taken the 2 shots of the COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm quite sure he's also adhering to the non-pharmaceutical distance. We actually, even right from March, we had a vaccination post. They were using the clinic, the State House clinic, for vaccination, and a lot of them collected both their first shot and the second shot. So I'm quite sure our president is very well protected.
So do you think we can put an end to Omicron as well?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your thoughts with us on this new variant of COVID-19 in Nigeria. We look forward to having you again on the program.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Yes. We've been speaking with Kubura, beg your pardon, Daradara, and she's the Director of Logistics and Health Commodities, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency here in Abuja. Well, we'll take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other issues on the program. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now let's take a look at yet another issue of concern. Hydropower is the most important and widely used renewable source of energy, hence the need to increase significantly the power generating capacity. Niger State is home to 3 of Nigeria's largest hydroelectric generation dams, namely Kainji, Jeba, and Shiroro, constructed in 1968, 1985, and 1990, respectively. However, the rural city is often plunged into days of darkness with no electrical power. Our correspondent Zainab Bala has a report on that.
It is known as Power State, but despite this title, many communities still do not have sufficient power supply. Driving through Paikoro local government area in Niger State, you can see electric poles, solar panels and power generators. This is evidence that power supply in Paikoro is unstable. Abubakar Adamu, a grinding miller, narrates his audio.
Marabinmu da mu ce ga mun samu wuta 24 hours. Gaskiya an ja lokaci. Lokaci za mu same ta awa 2, wani lokaci awa 3 ne. Kuma an wuce wurin. Sai dare. To da dare wa zai kawo maka abin da zaka ci? Ga nauyi akan ka. Saboda mi kuma ba ta yiwa ne saboda doka ne. In wata ya kare kuma dole za mu biya kudi ne. To ba sai sai an bar mana wutan za mu samu kuɗin sannan mu biya wani lokaci dole haƙuri muke yi a zo a yanke mana wutan sai mun samu mu yi buga mu samu mu biya kuma saboda me abincinmu ne babu wanda za mu yi fushi da abin tiɗina wani lokaci sai an tara min aiki na fara aikin ina cikin yin aikin nan ga kowa na son ya samu dan abin da zai sa a bakinsa saboda mi waye ne ke cin tuwo mu ne talaka wallahi muna cikin yin wannan al'amarin sai ga an ɗauke wutar a ƙasanmu a afirka mu ne uwa fa mu ne uwa sai dai ki je ki ba wata ƙasa nonon mu kuma mu kwana da yunwan zai yiwu ƙasa 6 Najeriya ke ba wuta ba su da matsalar wuta sai mu muke da matsalar wuta kuma mu ne fawa neja
kamar da ke gani yanzu presently ba wuta a wannan angon kuma an ɗauke wannan wutan ne tun jiya da dare misalin karfe 10 da 'yan mintoci haka suka ɗauke kuma har yanzu ba kawo ba to kuma ba lalle bane za a kawo wannan wutan kila ma sai yamma kuma an kawo da yamma in yayi lasting yayi awa 1 da minti 10 shikenan an ɗauke kuma kenan cikin dare kuma za a sake kawo kamar na awa 1 shikenan sai gobe kuma a magana wuta generally gaskiya ana faɗi wayansu da dama ma suna sana'a da wuta kuma sun daina yanzu saboda rashin tsayawa wutan wayansu sun siya fridge sun kwashe kuma sun sayar magungun an siya wayansu garuruka an tafi da su saboda rashin wuta
a kira ma gwamnati wannan jiha zuwa wannan ƙasa ta kwatanta adalci ma mutanen faiko domin mu ma mu san muna cikin ƙasa.
I visited the Shiroro hydropower plant, but was denied access by security operatives and the dam officials, stating insecurity in the area as a factor. I'm standing over the dam purported to generate over 600 megawatts of power. The power plant is valued at about 111 million US dollars. The federal government of Nigeria, through the Bureau of Public Enterprise, authorized the concession of the Shiroro Hydroelectric PLC for the generation, operation and activities of Power Holding Company of Nigeria PLC at the power station, to restore the total availability capacity of the two plants and increase power generation significantly within Nigeria. According to the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission, the reasons for the shortfall in generation can be attributed to the inadequate fuel supply to thermal plants, which constitutes over 80% of the installed capacity, hydrological factors for hydropower stations, maintenance outages at power plants, and transmission and distribution outages. Zainab Bala.
Well, very pathetic and ironical.
It is.
One may say. Here you have a community that has potential to
resources,
generate power, for a major source for power. I mean, we are talking about Niger State, which is, home to 3 Nigeria's largest, I would say, largest hydroelectrical generating dams. You have Kainji, Jeba, and Shiro. Yet they cannot even boast of having power in a place like that. That's ironical. It's like suffering in the midst of plenty.
It's actually funny how, Nigeria has a lot of untapped resources, but I think it's the ability to, harness or use those resources that we have that is an issue. Because it's not talking about Niger State, Shiroro, Jeba, and Kainji. If you go to other parts of the country, I'm very sure you'd actually find, dams talking about Mambila, and a lot more states states, you'd actually find, dams that can generate power, enough to make it stable for Nigerians. Recently we spoke to AEDC, and they talked about how they're working so hard to improve electricity, especially in Abuja. But I can tell you that in the past few days, electricity has been nothing to write home about.
Really, and if you think about it, sometimes it's beyond the generation. So we could generate, power, but again, it comes the problem of distribution. So you find that there are infrastructural gaps here and there, infrastructural problems of, distributing this power that has been generated. So it's a huge problem, and I think that it requires some urgent attention.
Definitely.
I mean, we cannot overemphasize the significance of power, to our development.
Industrialization, entrepreneurs, a lot of them cannot continue to depend on generator. And still talking about generator sets, talk about, the emission of carbon monoxide and how, detrimental it is for our health. And, we're trying to go green, for God's sakes. So how do we, intend to get there?
I mean, there are so many other sources that we could have tapped into. Water is one of them. People talk about solar power is also another thing. So all we just need is that will, that political will to make it happen. I mean, people always make reference to the fact that Nigeria supply electricity to
other countries,
and then here we are. The supplier
is falling short on its supply as well.
It's really sad. I can imagine a man like that one of the persons that were interviewed there, running this mill, this local grinding mill, in the local community. Now you have a queue of people who have all come to you to grind their maize, for their food, and then eventually there's no power.
And then, the fact that, for the most part, he has to use generator means he has to buy a lot of fuel. And, talking about subsidy removal, and fuel increasing, from what it is to, something a lot more higher.
So imagine the cost.
Imagine the cost.
The burden that it will put on people.
Will Nigerians even be able to... Exactly. Will they be able to afford it?
Exactly. How much will they now be paying to grind, what to eat?
So, if you ask me, the masses are the receiving end of everything.
And, the sad thing is that sometimes when you're up there, you really cannot see the reality of these things. You really cannot see how 10 naira, 15 naira can make a difference in the life of, some persons. But truly it does for some of these people in this local communities.
And also talking about, being up there, that's why you have people down there who are supposed to give you information, about what is happening, so you would be able to, take action. But how many of these people are doing that?
I recall in the past, 5 naira, 2 naira, 1 naira
was a lot of money.
Was a lot of money.
A whole lot.
You could do that, like these people going to grind. You could pay 1 naira.
1 naira. Then 50 kobo was a lot of money, and it was very valuable. But when was the last time you even saw 50 kobo? Nobody talks about kobo except in business, news and everything. But we need to bring back, our past glory. Honestly, we need to do something about it.
All right, now let's take a look at yet another story. This time around, talking about potable water supply. Now, nearly 500 people are affected by cholera outbreak in Gomo village in Sumaila local government area of Kano State. Now, residents of the village are calling on the state government to provide them with potable drinking water and electricity. This time around, TrustTV's Idris Jibrin files in this report.
This is Gomo, a small community of about 10,000 people in Sumaila local government area of Kano State. This town is about 130 kilometers drive from Kano and only 2 kilometers to Bauchi State. But life here is terrible.
Kun ga yanda wannan gari namu yake, muna iyaka da
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Well, we do apologize for that hitch there as far as that report is concerned. But again, we want to also stress the need that we need to have portable water supply for people, especially at the local communities. You need to see how some of these villagers source for water, you know, in their local communities. Sometimes they literally share with animals, you know, from streams and all of that. And it's quite sad. I mean, if we are talking about, you know, ending cholera outbreaks, that's where to go.
And for those of them who actually, you know, have access to wells, you know, what's the possibility of these wells being treated and, you know, safe enough, you know, for them to actually use, you know, or drink? You know, the thing is, they say water is life, and, you know, the need for one to, you know, have access to portable drinking water cannot be overemphasized, you know, because water is everything. You use water for a lot of things. You use water for a lot of things, you know. We actually have core members, you know, who are being posted to villages or communities like that, you know, engaging themselves in projects like, you know, making, building boreholes and everything for these communities. But over time, what happens to these boreholes?
You find that there are issues of management.
Exactly.
I also, one of the stories, I think, is in that same report that we had, that there are quite a number of boreholes in the community, but the villagers are not able to manage them.
Exactly.
And again, another problem is that sometimes these villagers are actually the ones sabotaging some of these efforts. Because I can tell you from one experience, an NGO dug a borehole somewhere in one community that I happened to cover, and then you wouldn't believe that within 24 hours after digging that borehole and officially launching that borehole, or I would say commissioning that borehole, some thieves from within the community went, dug and removed the engine, you know, that pumps the water, and then left with it. And
to what end?
That was the end of it.
You know, you have people trying to help you, trying to improve your life, and then you're there, I don't know, to what end?
Exactly, to sell. I mean,
to sell, and then when they sell, what do they, how much will it go for, and how much will that money last?
Exactly. So this is part of the problem. You know, I say that to just say that there are other factors, you know, that are also even responsible. Even where there is a provision for that, you find that there is no management. And then with
the
time,
community leaders need to do a lot more. They need to, you know, get up and do a lot more. It's not enough to, you know, just bear the title. You need to work. You need to work. You need to work with that name.
I mean, we cannot overemphasize the need for us to have drinking water. The other time we have an expert here, you know, that was, in fact, it's not just even having the boreholes, but how properly situated those boreholes. Because one of the experts we've had one time here talking about why Nigerians have typhoid, why Nigerians have
lot of diseases,
you know, a lot
cholera,
of disease, cholera and the rest of them, is that you find boreholes situated at close range, very close to soccerways, very close, yes, you know, very close to soccerways, and so you find that those waters are being contaminated, you know, and then people are drinking the water, and then you wake up and you find that in a whole community everyone is
You know, similarly to those communities that actually have streams, you know, you find them doing everything in the stream. Some bathing in it, you know, still fetching the same water, you know, to drink. Some washing in it, you know, some even going there to defecate, and you know, a lot of things. So those, you know, those things being done, those factors as well can actually, you know, increase the number of diseases that these communities, especially cholera,
which is why we need to end open defecation as well.
Very important.
You know, in line with today's
World Environment
Day, it's very important. Now, talking about that as well, we also have another report that we want to take a look at, talking about organic cleanup in respect to today being World Environment Day. Take a look.
Says there will be an health audit of Ogoni people to ascertain what interventions need to be done. Ikiaza assured that the Ministry of Environment will continue to engage the people of Ogoni and communities while also appealing for collaboration with all stakeholders to make the cleanup project a success.
And also, you call it security, I call it environmental surveillance on the issue of engaging our youth. We are putting the process in place to engage our youth to be the ones surveying and protecting all environmental sites where we're cleaning. So the more we have our young people take over the securing of these sites, the better for us.
Earlier, the chairman of Ogoni Supreme Council of Traditional Rulers, King Godwin Gininwa, called for the establishment of a University of Environment in Ogoni land to serve as the center of excellence as recommended in the UNEP report. Also speaking, former President, Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, Ledomite, called for employment of youth in the project as well as training on skills.
Is that education is the key role of every development in the world. Our senator applied in the Senate, made a provision for University of Environment. And when we visited the president about 3 weeks ago, we mentioned it to him that we need a university in Ogoni. And he said when the assembly sent the report, he's going to approve it. But I'm quite sure now that the report has come to the president. Please tell the president that the Ogoni people who are in people want that university.
And now if we take these sites that 150,000 is being paid to about 500 youths for each of the areas they will be cleaned up, there will be some transformation and it will help the security of the situation. We cannot have 1 billion being spent on our land or in our name and we do not have what is 100 million transformation. So I feel that the challenge is how do we transform the amount of money being spent to the lives of our people.
The minister said her goal is to ensure that the cleanup project is owned by the Ogoni people and that more indigenous people acquire the required skills and ability to participate in the cleanup.
Well, there you have it. I mean, very interesting conversation there to keep our environment clean, talking about the Ogoni cleanup. That's a conversation that started quite a while ago. We're still on it till today.
The government needs to come with full force to help these people. Ayuba, I tell you, I don't know how these people have been surviving all these years. The oil spills, they've contaminated everything. You know, talking about the lands for farming, you know, the water and everything.
You cannot fish.
You can't do
you
anything.
Can't grow food. You can't grow crops. You know,
it's
so
crazy.
The means of livelihood. I mean, we know that from time past, the primary means of livelihood for people, especially in the riverine areas, is one, agriculture, and of course fishing. You know, but all of that is gone. So what else is left?
So what else? How do they even get potable drinking water?
Again,
if I may ask, how? Because if you intend to, you know, dig a borehole, you know, you won't. I don't know. It won't work. You can't even.
The water is contaminated.
Exactly. So how?
Well, I think it goes to show the need for more efforts to be put in that regard to make sure that the people are safe. Well, we've looked at quite a lot. In case you missed our discussion earlier on the program, you can catch up on our YouTube and also follow us across all social media handles. Omicron is in Nigeria. 2 cases have been detected so far. By the end of today, perhaps we're likely to see an increase.
Some reports are saying 3, some are saying 2, but it's still within that number. But we just hope it doesn't escalate as badly as previous variants like the Alpha and the rest.
And let's hope that we're able to come off this as soon as possible, because it's from one variant to another, and on and on and on and on.
And let's not forget, if you have access, to vaccinations, please go and get your jabs. Okay, go get jabs or go get booster shots if you've been vaccinated, already. And please also make sure that you wash your hands, follow the precautions, the measures, wash your hands regularly, always move around with your face masks, because the virus won't come out to say, oh yes, I'm here. You will not know who, has it, and you don't know who you will come in contact with. So always move around with your face mask, and do not forget to keep the 2 meters distance from,
other persons.
And
don't forget that the Omicron variant there's a lot of uncertainties around it. Scientists are still researching to find out what's different about the Omicron variant. So we really can't say the kind of danger that it poses for us as a people, but just take the precautions to be safe.
Definitely.
Do not expose yourself. It's not, what the usual, variants that we know.
I also noticed that most people in Abuja, most times, even if they don't really have nothing to do, they always move around. If you have nowhere to go, please stay at home.
Really.
Very important. Stay at home.
All right. With that, we wrap up the Daybreak Show this morning. We hope to have you again on the program tomorrow. Join us. We're going to be having also another round of interesting conversations. For now, we call it off. My name is Ayuelia.
And I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.